Hi everyone, my name is Yarrow and you're listening to the Daydream Rose podcast. I'm super grateful you're here and I have something really cool and funny and special for you today. It's not a normal episode, no, it's a grumpisode. I talked to the wonderful Sarah Chappell because we had a lot of feelings. We often have, that's a thing, we often have a lot of feelings, and we were talking about how there's just a ton of pressure for small business owners to create really upbeat and cheerful content all the time and appear like we have it together. And how actually there's a ton of stuff we're really grumpy about in the world right now. And yeah, it was super cool. I had a ton of fun. I think it is a good episode to listen to if you need a permission slip to also be a bit grumpy and just to let it all out and really embrace the whole range of human emotions, because that's exactly what we did. So there was some general grump, and then there was also some more specific grump about permanent housing being really hard to attain, social media changing all the time, diet culture, having no sickness backup when you're ill and you work for yourself, all this stuff. And also, what is even work-life balance? We don't know. So yeah, it was funny. Towards the end, we had a ton of fun, but then towards the end, we were both a bit like, is this okay? Should we let people know that we're sometimes cheerful and grateful? Or will they think we're weird? And yeah, I think that's super interesting. So what I took away from that is that we all maybe need a bit more permission to be grumpy sometimes. And so we're excited to share this, and we'll continue to be grumpy and grateful at the same time. I also want to let you know about a few cool things that are happening in my business at the moment. The first thing is that I have completed uploading all the core content for the Do-It-Yourself Business Magic program. So a quick recap, I created this program for small business owners or those who want to become small business owners or freelancers, but feel a bit daunted and want to have like a really beautiful, safe container to explore what sustainability and kindness and accessibility and long-term growth means to them. So it's a mix of tech training, because that's my background. I'm a web designer. I offer tech support and online marketing stuff. So I'm covering everything from how to set up a newsletter to choosing the right social media channels, creating graphics, having a content strategy, thinking about who you're even talking to. But that's also, there's this other component to it where there's a bunch of tarot spreads and rituals for entrepreneurs and just cool stuff that feels really grounding when we're trying to grow something magical that's hopefully going to be sustainable one day. One day it's all going to be sustainable. And so yeah, because I really care about access, I'm making it available through Patreon. You can pledge $11 or more and get access to all my courses, including this one and the Magic of Embodiment that's about to come up next month. So $11 is a suggested pledge. If that's not affordable to you, totally cool. Just message me. I'll give you access anyway, because I love you. And that leads me to the next thing, which is the Magic of Embodiment, which I'm really excited about. So that's starting in October, and it is kind of a deepening and a continuation of the monthly ritual kits that I've been offering all year so far to Patreons. And want to be really honest, promoting yourself is fucking hard. So I'm just going to read to you what it says on my pretty page for the program, because that's less awkward. So here we go. The Magic of Embodiment is an affordable year-long online program that explores ritual magic through the lens of embodiment and reclamation. It offers tools, practices, and inspiration for soft folks who want to make their own magic and inhabit their bodies more fully, make new friends, and learn to trust their intuition. Each month you will receive a theme package full of self-care and exciting invitations. A tarot spread, a playlist, an audio-recorded workshop with journaling and movement practices, a planned friend profile, a herbal recipe, a riff on a major arcana card from the tarot, and a ritual suggestion. Every other month we'll also meet live for online workshops to ask questions, share, and create together. You can get access to the Magic of Embodiment by pledging $3, $7, $11, or $17 on a sliding scale on Patreon. While this is a year-long program, there's no commitment. You can join or stop anytime. Oh yeah, why this is so cheap? Because I want it to be affordable and accessible to as many people as possible. I believe that healing is political and it does not have to be expensive. You're already enough with or without this program. I'm trying to find a way to make this work sustainable while offering something that I deeply believe in, something that has helped me immensely. If you feel excited about this too, I would appreciate you sharing it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That was awkward. Anyway, and yeah, the final thing I will add that there's also individual support available. So if you're going through a transition or you just want to treat yourself and get some support, you can pledge $13 or more and receive regular monthly readings from me, or even meet me on Skype for mentoring sessions, which is really cool. Thank you so much for listening. Like I said, it's a really kind of heartfelt project, and if you feel excited about this or you like my work or the podcast, I would so appreciate if you share this offering or my Patreon or this episode, whatever you like. Thank you so much. I will let you listen to it now. Have a beautiful day. Hey everyone, I am so excited to speak to Sarah Chappell today for a double episode for both So You Want to Be a Witch and the Daydream Wolves podcast, because get this, we have already interviewed each other for each of our individual podcasts, and we're kind of Instagram friends, and Sarah is just so cool. So I was like, I love being grumpy with Sarah sometimes, because let's be real, like there is just a lot of stuff in the world to be grumpy about right now. And we're just not giving ourselves enough space for that. So without any shame, this will be a whole grump episode where we're just going to let it all out. If that's not your jam, that's cool. Also, we are otherwise pretty positive people some of the time, but we embrace the whole spectrum of the human experience. And this episode is just for the grump. So yeah, and also one of the things that we're grumpy about is that as entrepreneurs, we are also humans, surprise, and we're pretty busy with stuff, and we would really love to podcast more, but we have bills to pay and client work to do, and Sarah is also running a product-based business, so lots to be grumpy about. And so we said, let's have a conversation rather than another interview, and then we can both publish that on our podcast, and it's like 2 in 1. That's super efficient, and I say that as a German, so
So you know what efficiency is in your blood.
I definitely know. Yeah. So yeah, that's my little intro. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to talk about, but I think it's going to be really funny, and it's going to probably be like a funny peek behind the scenes. And I will just let Sarah introduce herself now, in case anyone doesn't know her, which I don't know why that would be the case, but you never know.
Well, I am Sarah Chappell of So You Want to Be a Witch, and I'm super excited for our double episode today. Out with the idea of doing a grumpisode. I was so there because even though I have become an increasingly positive person with a lot of very hard effort and a lot of very strong herbal support, I'm still grumpy a lot.
Yeah. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Sarah. There's already a major grumpy thing. You've cut out 1 second, and I think we should both. I think it's totally cool, but we should both turn our videos off to make the audio quality better, and then we can grump ahead. Can we?
Awesome. Can you grumpy back on track?
Yes, yes. Yeah. Can you just repeat the last thing after you said you have gotten lots better, but you're also still grumpy?
I don't even remember what I said, but I am grumpy and life is hard, but amazing. And I'm so happy that we can talk about all of that and be multifaceted human people rather than just acting like everything is rad all the time.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so here for that. That's great. Yeah. I also want to let people know kind of what you're doing technically, because you're offering really cool stuff. That's one thing I'm not grumpy about. So you're quite the herbalist. You have an alcohol-free practice, which I'm really excited about. And you're also a tarot reader, and you also offer business support. So that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sure this is something we can talk about today, but that, the many multi-pronged approach of small business ownership, which you do a lot of similar things as well as a web developer and a teacher and a business teacher, business coach, and tarot reader and podcaster. It's really fantastic to be able to do so many different things, but that's part of what I'm grumpy about today too, is that I'm tired.
Yeah. Same. Yes, totally. Yeah, me too. I will introduce myself really quickly too. My name is
Yes.
Yarrow Magdalena. I run two businesses. One is called Yarrow Digital. That's about web design and online marketing, trying to kind of take an alternative approach with that and be really holistic in air quotes. So I know that wording is really hard to figure out, but basically it's not bullshit marketing. And then I'm also a tarot reader and a ritual maker, and I'm really into folk herbalism, though I feel too shy at this point to call myself a herbalist. And that's probably also another thing that we can feel grumpy about, is like how hard it is to claim certain things and how fucked our education systems are. Oh my God. Yeah. So that's us. Hey,
Hi.
where should we start? What are you most grumpy about today?
Today I'm really grumpy about my health.
Mm-hmm.
I am super health grumpy right now, and this is something that I think it'd be fun, but interesting for us to talk about, which is finding that balance. One of the things I love about having my own business is that it does enable me to create the space when my body or my brain are not doing well, when I need a break. But the flip side of that is that it's pretty much just me in my business. It's just me and my dog. And if I'm sick, like I had to cancel almost a week's worth of stuff last week, and I've had to do that 3 or 4 times this summer. There's no one else to do it. And there's that is making me grumpy because I want to take care of myself. And that's one of the reasons I work for myself. But it also directly affects my ability to support myself. Grumpy.
Yeah, same. Very grumpy. It's difficult to communicate that to people as well, isn't that? Is because I think people, when they buy a service or they book to work with us, have kind of the expectation that we run the same way like a big corporate business would, and that there would be backup if we need to be grumpy or yeah. You're cutting out a little bit again, but I think it is better now. So yeah,
okay.
That should be. Oh, yeah, now it's perfect now. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, rad.
Yeah, I know that in some Scandinavian countries there is something like a practice around like small groups of entrepreneurs or freelancers getting together and putting some money into like a pot each month, and then if some of them get sick, they pay each other like a replacement salary, and I think that's quite cool. More people should do that.
That's a great idea to create a little health pot, a little wellness honey pot.
I will say though, I think I have a lot of trust issues, and I find group dynamics really hard. And then I wonder, like, realistically, if I got sick and I had paid like a year into it, would I really take money out of it? You know?
Yeah, I don't know. Part of the reason I like working for myself is because I don't have to answer to other people. And I don't know if that's healthy or not, but that is the reality. And I like the idea, but I think, it would be there'd be some conflict. Like, are we comfortable then taking money out? Are we actually comfortable financially supporting each other in a culture that continues to teach us that there isn't enough to go around?
Yeah. Speaking of which, living in that culture is, I think, a part of the reason that we are sometimes sick, isn't it? And I am up for grumping about that a little bit soon as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. How does that show up for you in your business, and how does that affect your health?
I think at the moment, what I feel the most is like the anxiety coming up when a day isn't going well, or when I feel some smaller health issues popping up. I'm like, shit, if this is going to be a bigger thing. And that's just part of me, like part of me is also, whoa, I've got all these tools. I'm in a completely different place that I've been 10 years ago. I am really lucky that I have healthcare in the UK here, even if it isn't perfect, but I do have it. So there's that part. And then there's also the part of me that's just really anxious because I have experienced a lot of scarcity growing up and as a young adult. And I know that paying bills can be tricky. And, and it hasn't been tricky to pay rent for me on a basic level for a while, but I really feel like in my body on a cellular level that it takes time to sink into a little bit more safety, and that there's also this yearning for actually a lot more safety. And then there's feelings around like, is that too much to want? And then there's like, no, actually that's pretty basic. So one of the things I feel right now that would really feel supportive of my physical and mental health would be to have like a really stable forever home. And home ownership in UK is a massive thing. It's incredibly expensive down south where I live here. I'm wondering if I should move more north, if that would be good for me in the long term. But I'm really grounded in my community here, and I really resent young people and queers and artists being pushed out of areas that we've lived in for a long time. That's quite sad to me. So yeah, those are some of the things that are showing up for me. And then food as well, I think is a big deal. Like I really noticed that it'd be great for me to change my diet a little bit in theory, in a really compassionate and gentle way, like self-compassionate and gentle. But at the same time, I'm putting in so much work untangling myself from diet culture and from really narrow beauty standards that it is often one of two extremes for me, and that's not helping my health either. And that makes me grumpy about my effort kind of being a lot less fruitless than they would have been without diet culture. Yeah.
I am with you on every level of that right now. That tension between wanting to feel secure and then feeling guilty or like shamed, or like that isn't something that we're supposed to want, or that it's not okay. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things tied up in there. And I'm really addressing that right now because I want to continue to serve my local community and my wider community to the best of my ability. But I also really, I want a house that people cannot kick me out of. That is really important to me right now. Before my current place, the last two places I ended up having to leave because of issues with the landlords, one a legal issue. And I feel that so deep in my body, even though I am more secure now, I can pay my rent. Like a lot of the problems that I had when I was starting my business, which was a financial disaster, like an unmitigated disaster. I had no plan. I had no savings, just a huge, huge mess. That's over now. And I'm living in a place where I'm safe and secure and I can afford, and I am still just terrified so much of the time. And I don't know how to move through that. My answer in my mind is to like buy a house, but I'm like, oh my God, how do people buy houses?
Yeah, how do people buy houses, and how do people make such commitments? Because I think there's also, at least for me, this like balance between, yes, I do really want this forever stable housing situation, but can I really, with lots of confidence, commit it to this one place? And I know that lots of people, at least in my life, the only people that are working towards home ownership are doing it with someone else. And I find that quite tricky too, to be honest. I would love to say that I'm really open to that, but if I'm really honest with myself, I find that quite scary. Yeah,
I think committing to a space and a place is challenging, and I feel that a lot as well. I love where I live in the mountains of North Carolina, but I've never stayed in one place for a really long time. Even though I lived in New York City for 11 years, I would always spend 3 months in California or 3 months in Europe. Like I was just always working or going other places. And the idea of being like, oh, I want to get some land and stay here and be rooted makes my anxiety also pop up, because then it feels like you're limiting options. It's like, well, how can you have security and freedom at the same time?
Yeah. And what does a resilient community look like? I find that really interesting as well, because there's so much political uncertainty and environmental uncertainty. So I'm thinking a lot about, what can resilience look like in times of wildfires and floods and all that stuff? And how can we remain grounded in things that cannot be touched by that? And that brings me back to our spiritual practices, really. So they do really give me a ton of comfort, like knowing that plants will always be there. At least as long as they're humans, there will be plants. That's quite
Yes.
cool. So we will feel some sense of home in the forest as long as they're humans.
I think that's part of why I'm so drawn to the land that I'm on now, is because there's more plants than humans.
That's great.
But it is interesting to think about. I mean, in the United States, and I know all over the world, but we are having huge wildfires, huge problems. Every year it's getting worse. And I live somewhere where, unless there's drought, which happened 2 years ago and was very bad and resulted in wildfires, it's generally pretty ecologically stable. And that is a factor, I think, as we look forward, yes, towards this idea of resilient communities, but also where we choose to live if we're going to stay rooted. Is I want to live somewhere where I can have a reciprocal relationship with the land, and a land that can support me, a land that has water, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good one. I really feel that.
What kind of spiritual practices are helping you to navigate this anxiety, joy kind of tumble of having your own businesses?
Definitely have a huge wave of deepening my love for the tarot at the moment. I think at the beginning of summer, I was feeling a little bit uninspired, and I was mainly reading for other people and kind of not really making the space for myself. And then the last 3 to 4 weeks, I was just like, wow, man, I love this so much, and it has so many problems, and I see them, and we need to talk about them, and I need to find my own, ways of working with things and interpretations and ways of connecting and feeling represented in the cards. But it is such a helpful tool for me, because I think for me at the moment, it's mainly that I draw cards and then I write about them, and I need that spark. So I think that's my main practice at the moment. On Sunday, for example, it's really grumpy. Last Sunday, I was just incredibly grumpy, to the point that, anyway, I was working on the Sunday, which I was grumpy about, and then I finished work and I was like, right, I cleaned my house up a little bit, which doesn't take long because I live in a tiny house. And I sat down, I really wanted to read, but I felt so restless and so diffused anxiety, or not really sure what exactly my issue was, and just couldn't really drop into that book. And that made me grumpy too, because I usually know that, reading is good for me and it's really relaxing. And I was really keen on that book too. And so I sat down at my desk and I drew a card for each of the things that I experience as a big challenge at the moment. There were 5 different things, and each of the cards was so spot on. And I would just had this moment of really deep appreciation and enchantment. And I wrote a paragraph on each card and kind of gave myself advice. And I really felt like I was stepping outside of myself and outside of my head and my of the thoughts that so often can go in circles. And I was just like, look, this is what you can do. This is what you can do nothing about right now. This is how you can maybe shift a little bit about how you feel about this without bypassing any negative emotions. But this is it, basically. And that felt really comforting. I was like, oh God, yeah, that is possible too. And it's a really good form of self-regulation for me, and tuning into intuition. And so, yeah, that's what I'm most grateful for right now. What about you?
I am. Tara and I have such a funny relationship, and it's my favorite tool. But my deck has been increasingly sassy with me, which is fine, and I need that. I need the tough love sass for sure, but I have been going to it more and more as well. I think for a long time I kind of separated it and was like, tarot is my work and my job, and I love it, but it's not for me. I really kind of pulled that out, and I've actually been shifting away from doing as many readings for other people as I'm doing more mentorship and teaching. And as a result, there's been this space open up where I actually have a deeper relationship with my cards on a personal level. But mostly recently, they've just been telling me no in different creative ways, like really sassy no's, like, no, you can't do that. No, you don't want to do that. And I'm like, but I want to do that. And the cards are like, no. So that's my spiritual practice at the moment, is learning to accept the no. But also really spending more time outside and just trying to commit to that, really trying to commit to taking advantage of living in one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, and just being with the plant spirits friends and opening up to that magic and deeper level of connection with the wider world. We have a mutual online friend in Ren Zatopek who I adore.
Oh, yes.
And I'm going deeper in my spirit work studies with Ren, and that is a really transformative, exciting, scary place for my logic-filled brain to be diving into.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful to hear. I'm taking that course too, though really, really slowly.
Same. So slow.
So slow. I think I'm technically still in babyhood in lots of ways. I have checked other sections out, but yeah, we should put that in the show notes. It's a really, really great. I mean, Ren is amazing, and the course is incredible as well. So yeah, I'm glad to know that you're doing it too. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm in between hood now, but it's taken me over a year to get there for sure. So
that kind of is a beautiful bridge to another thing I'm grumpy about, and I wonder if you're grumpy about it too. But it's this like time as an entrepreneur. And I want to identify a couple of like strains on my time at the moment. And one of the things is, and that has nothing to do with this course in particular, by the way, but just more generally, I acknowledge that there have been times where I felt so inadequate and insecure about my ability to do this thing that I wanted to do, that I've taken courses purely out of insecurity. And many courses that I've taken have taught me so much and have been incredible for my self-development. But there's been like one or two where I walked away and was like, shit, that was a lot of money, which means there's a lot of time that I needed to work. And actually, it was either not suited for what I needed at the time or what I needed or wanted to learn, or I couldn't really be present with it because I was too stressed out and I'm already so saturated with media. So that's the kind of one strain on time. And the other thing is, I'm on one hand really excited that we have all these new tools of doing trading with people in kind of better ways, so that we can offer so much free content relatively easily to a lot of people on the internet, that we can have tools like sliding scales, that we can sometimes trade without any monetary exchange. That's all really cool. And at the same time, it is a lot to navigate, isn't it? Like wanting to offer a personalized one-on-one service in a way that's accessible to a lot of people, and then kind of sensing that teaching groups is much easier, but it's also different, and it's just so much to learn, isn't it? When you start out doing one thing and you're navigating all these things and you want to keep things open and accessible, and oh gosh, yeah, does that make sense?
Oh, definitely. And I think that it's a huge challenge. First of all, I will also confess to being like a course junkie, and while I love online courses, I've done the same thing where my own doubt, my own fear has led me to take things, to pay for things, especially earlier in my business, that just weren't what I needed, or really were more of the same, but I didn't believe in myself, or didn't have the confidence to dedicate the time and resources to implement what I already knew. And I see that a lot with people I work with in business and marketing consulting, is that they'll know what to do, but they just don't think that it'll work for them. So they want an expert to tell them that it'll work. And the reality is that that what works for other people might not work for you, but you don't know until you try it. So like the online course trap becomes this idea that we have to find like the new thing that will make our businesses work. But there are no blanket statements that can be made. So we have to try things, which also is a time suck. Testing and trying is a time suck. But also, yes, I think that this, money and service and one-on-one versus group and community. And I am so with you that this is just the constant swirl in my head because I am limited in how much I can do one-on-one. And increasingly, my health is making it harder for me to do a lot of one-on-one work. So I'm doing more group teaching, which I love, but it is different. And we can talk about things like scalability, which I think are exciting. The possibility of being able to work with so many more people, generally at a lower price point because of the economies of scale. But it's not the same as being able to have that one-on-one experience. And I struggle with that all the time because there aren't enough hours in the day. And I can no longer work like I have a corporate job and I'm working 80 or 90 hours or more a week. I can't do it.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I don't know. It makes me grumpy.
Yes, me too. Yeah, totally. And yeah, it makes me grumpy too. I would love to pour so much energy into some of the things that are not commercial or that are not as financially stabilizing in my business because they're beautiful and I really enjoy them, but I do see that getting easier. Like my Patreon is definitely helping a bit, and although I will say with that, another thing I'm grumpy about, really love Patreon, and I really love creating kind of low cost digital products, and I have done that for a while. But another thing I find quite heartbreaking and grumpy making is that I really see that the more you charge people, the more likely it is that they are engaged. And that is kind of like a weird mechanism of self-selection, because if you do then decide to charge more, you will inevitably exclude a large group of people, which is really sad, and no one wants to do that. And then on the other hand, if you offer things at a very affordable price, you might bring more people in quicker, and you might have to spend less on marketing. But engagement rates will drop quite quickly. And I have at first taken that a little bit personal almost. I was like, but I made you this great thing and you paid this little price for it. Like, why are you not working with it all the time? But I know that is totally unreasonable. It has nothing to do with me. It might, of course, be that there's things that I can improve about what I'm offering, and that's a different discussion. But generally, I think with that, it's good to remember that we're all incredibly busy and really saturated, and also just kind of swimming around this beautiful, messy pool trying to figure stuff out. Yeah.
I also think that there is just such deep conditioning around money equaling value. And this is something that, I hear in marketing circles a lot, and my kind of, outsider point of view, or wannabe outsider point of view, is like, I don't want to believe it, but I see it all the time, which is that people tend to value things that are less expensive or free less than if they invest in them. And I think that really runs up against some of what I know I've seen, you talk about, and I know I think about, and a lot of people in our wider community are, about how to do things in a way, how to exist in late capitalism without, buying into all that it is forcing upon us. But we have this, even if we don't want it, we have this deep rooted sense that more money equals more value. And I see that in my business, and it sounds like what you're describing. It's like you get better engagement if people pay more. And that is, it's like yes, we're busy. Yes, there's a lot of things. And this is a blanket statement, but I see it to be true. And it's really, it's sad. And I don't know how we can shift that.
Yeah. And I think with that commitment to something people paid for, there's also questions around like, why did I commit to it in the first place? And obviously I think so many more people could benefit from you and what you and I are offering, because we're really cool and we know things, and especially we know about self-care, so that's really important and great. So I do really think that, and at the same time I wonder, yeah, if maybe some people can commit to things or programs because of a perceived scarcity in their own knowing or goodness or something, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also feeling like, and I think another aspect that makes committing to the work so much easier is having one-on-one support. And then again, that brings up the issue of like, how can that be affordable? I know that when I have worked with mentors one-on-one, last year I mentored with Nancy Antonucci in Tower Work, and that was incredible. Like, I love her so much. Really want to bring her on my podcast. It's another thing that I haven't had time for, grump. But I mean, she is really funny and cute, and just yeah, it's been really so great to have that container to explore my own practice and commit. And I saw in working with her that it deepened my understanding of her teaching so deeply beyond the book that I read by her before that. And I was like, oh damn, I wish I could do that all year, you know, all year, every year, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that people have limited time and limited resources, but I still see it just this. Yeah, we want or need that one-on-one touch. That is the way to create accountability for so many of us, and that's not necessarily sustainable. And yeah, I would love to do. I don't know. I have so many questions about it because every time I've tried to do things that were maybe more accessible to more people, something always just doesn't quite work right. And I don't know how to, I can't change the way people think. I can't change the way I think. Or those deep kind of, those deep trainings around what we value and how we spend our time. I mean, that requires just so much effort to shift.
Yeah, it's very true. Totally. There's another thing I'm really grumpy about. Unless you want to say more about this thing, I would shift gears a little bit because I'm excited to grump about that too. Or is there anything else that you want to add?
I don't think so. Let's go grump on something else.
Okay, great. Basically, social media and how.
Grump.
Yeah. Oh my God, yes, right? And how it's changing all the time. So like, you think you got something figured out, yeah? You worked years to build up this following, and then shit changes all the time. Just like that, as if you had nothing else to do. I bet I could spend like easily 10 hours a week just doing social media, and that would include engaging people, having conversations, coming up with my own content, creating graphics, linking shit up, you know, I don't know, maybe finding resources and sharing them, and then teaching myself about all the new trends and hashtags and researching those and blah, blah, blah. So I think for me, it is a constant balance. I really often enjoy social media. Obviously, it has enabled my business. It's connected me with amazing people. It can be really fun and really inspiring. But I think what I am most grumpy about it is the fast pace of it, and that it just changes all the time, and I hate change. It's not cool.
I'm so with you though. I mean, there are people who I see still thriving, still doing really well, especially I think Instagram is the platform that's pissing me off the most. And I see people who are still doing well, but they are clearly putting in a lot of effort, a lot of time. And I mean, good for them. But I see so many small businesses, especially, there's a couple threshold points that I see in terms of followers where you hit a certain level and it's like you get knocked down in terms of your engagement. And Instagram continues to insist that they don't do anything like that, but it's obviously bullshit. And it's, I love Instagram and I love social media because I get to meet people like you. I get to meet people all over the world. It's remarkable what people share and how we can learn from each other. And it does, yes, facilitate my business. So I have a lot of gratitude, but I can't play the game. I don't have the energy to play the game. I want to share and have interaction and learn and offer what I have to offer, but I just can't play the game anymore. And that's what it feels like constantly. Like I have to figure out, there's like new rules and nobody's told me what they are. And, you know, it's like, I don't have like a social media assistant, you know, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm also just too old. I need to like find a 20-year-old to come and help me with this.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Feeling this so much. Yeah. I mean, I love your social media presence. I'm always delighted to see you on my feed.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, so there's that.
And I love yours. And there's so many beautiful people that we get to like interact with. It's fantastic, but it's not, you know, it's changed a lot, of course. And it really overwhelms me.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I'm really inspired with your Pinterest presence, and I have put a lot more energy into my Pinterest account. But there's also like, I have a really long list of things that I still want to do on Pinterest. For example, I don't have a graphic for all my podcast episodes. And then I want to use a Better WordPress plugin so that when people want to pin something, it shows them just one correct graphic, so they're not fiddling around with squares or something, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And I want to have more boards. I want to get engaged with some group boards. And realistically, it is just always such a balance between client work and the stuff that directly brings in income, and putting up in this system, like investing in Pinterest, that is really great long term, but it's not going to get you any money right now, and that's tricky because, you know, bills and stuff. But but just to say, your Pinterest is really cool.
Thank you.
And and also the other thing I really love is that we both have podcasts. I think that's really important because we absolutely need independent media. Like literally, I talked about this before on Instagram, I think, but our social media accounts can just be taken away at any moment. And that's, I think the censoring on Instagram in particular is another thing to be really grumpy about. And
oh my gosh, yes, we haven't even talked about that. I mean, like, oh, boo-hoo, my interaction is low. I mean, Black women in particular are being censored at extremely high rates on Instagram. But we all stay on the platform because we feel like we all need it for our businesses. And it's fucked up.
And then it's the same with Facebook, isn't it? I'll use that less for business, but really, I mean, no way in hell would I ever, if, you know, I want to say if I had a choice. I know I do have a choice. I'm just pissed with the company's politics, and I think I don't want to be there, actually. And I'm quite sad also that there has been so many kind of other small startups coming up over the last couple of years that really kind of challenged those more traditional ways of doing it, like having a chronological, like having an algorithm in the feed and that kind of stuff. But they've just never made it. Like I have excitedly joined a bunch of different platforms, and then either they just weren't picked up, and I think that has so much to do with just how dominant the existing platforms have become over the years, and how much investment capital you would need to really compete in that arena. So that's quite sad. Yeah.
It is. And just what you were saying, you know, back to like independent media, is that, I mean, for now at least, though there are platforms that are changing this for sure, podcasts are a relatively independent media. You can start a podcast for a very low amount of money, and I mean, depending on what you need from it, but it's still there, you know, it doesn't cost money to submit them to the different platforms for most of them. And I do think that's critical. Well, of course, there's rankings, and that affects how many people find your podcast, and there's always stuff like that. It's really important. And the other thing that I know you and I have both talked about as well is your email list. You know, because I live in like, what would happen if Instagram went away tomorrow? What would happen? How many small businesses would be crushed? I consult for people all the time who don't have a mailing list.
Wow.
And I cannot emphasize enough. I mean, and this is also me to myself, because I need to remember to practice what I preach here. But like, the mailing list is the only way that we can actually contact people reliably. That's it. That's all we got.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Grumpy.
Very grumpy, yes. And newsletters can be so beautiful. I really wish. And that's another thing, right? Like, I do believe in the value of our newsletters. I love reading yours, obviously.
Oh, thanks.
um, yeah, and I just wish there was less media saturation so that small independent staff would have more space and get more attention and more presence with people. That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, I do understand, like you said earlier. I mean, people are just overwhelmed and there's so much. And we have this kind of this positive feedback loop that the bigger a company is, the more we trust them. So the more people pay attention, which makes them bigger. And
Mm-hmm.
that becomes this, it makes it hard. And it's always been harder for smaller businesses, I'm sure. But at this moment when we're so reliant upon tools that we don't control, it's extremely challenging to see a different way forward. And I think, yeah, newsletters, I don't know, part of me just wants to start mailing stuff to people, just all
Yeah. 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 That would also make a lot of the legal stuff around our practices easier, wouldn't it? Because I mean, this is a whole other field to be grumpy about, really. It's like the regulation around certain things, and yeah. Mm. I don't know what
Well,
that's like in your area, but I do see that here in Europe a lot.
with GDPR.
Yeah, that for example, but also I was thinking more about legal requirements around herbal practices and what we're allowed to say when we
Oh,
communicate about what we're offering. Yeah.
we definitely have that, but because herbalism isn't legally recognized in the United States, there's a lot more wiggle room than there
Mm-hmm.
is in the UK and Europe,
Mm-hmm.
to my understanding. But we do have a lot we have to be careful around, and that makes it extra challenging too. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you can't say legally that an herb works on this disease state. That's
Mm-hmm.
illegal. You can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have to kind of use, it's just like this language of euphemism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that makes it harder, that makes it more impenetrable and makes it less accessible, which to me in herbalism defeats the entire purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like I always say this. I think one of the most healing things that I got out of learning about herbalism is this really deep reconnection and reclaiming some sense of really empowerment about my own health and understanding myself as a part of my bioregion and as someone who can intuitively learn and understand things, who doesn't necessarily need a doctor as a middleman. Of course, doctors can be great. Certain conditions absolutely need them, no doubt about it. But like in the day-to-day self-care stuff, I found that incredibly empowering, and I needed a couple of people to be like, look, this is what this does. And I can tell you, over 20 years of my practice, I have seen this working. I can say this with confidence. And now there's so much anxiety around what we can actually say or not say, which is really sad.
Yeah, and ultimately just limits the amount of information that's available to people. And at the same time that there is just a huge amount of misinformation on the internet as well, which I don't know how people get away with saying what they're
Mm,
saying.
mm-hmm,
So there's just this weird, oversaturation of, I don't want to say the wrong kind of information. It's not my place to judge,
mm-hmm.
but information that might not be as reliable.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. I don't have any answers, Yarrow.
Mm-hmm.
I have no
Same.
answers.
No, same. Me too. Yeah. Yeah. But it's just so beautiful to let it all out, you know? I think that's really great.
I know. And actually
Yeah.
now that we're talking, I have had some longer list things that I've wanted to do, new zines that are on the horizon and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, ah, yes, independent press. Like we need to print more of our own stuff. You need to be making more
Yes.
zines, Sarah. Like take it
Yes.
offline. Like,
Yes.
and and I get overwhelmed because it is harder in a lot of ways to make a physical product. And as you said in the intro, I have a physical product line, and
Mm-hmm.
right now I'm just completely swamped by it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so grateful, but ha, like
Mm-hmm.
I can make an online course and reach, tons of people, and it's so much easier to me than
Mm-hmm.
making something with my hands. And that is That makes me grumpy too, because I'd like to do more making with my hands.
Yeah. It's
But
so
it's
good.
hard.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's so good for our mental health, isn't it? I have
Yes.
blocked this coming Sunday to go and wildcraft some hawthorn and some nettle.
Ooh,
And I'm so
ooh.
excited about the stuff that I can make with my hands. Like, oh, at this point in my business, in my life, there's no way I could license for a product line here in the UK at least. So I kind of keep that stuff to myself and I trade with the people and give some to friends. But yeah, nevertheless, I am super excited about it.
Mm. That is going to bring me to something that I'm grumpy about, but it's my own damn fault, which is that I don't know how to take a day off for the life of me.
Oh gosh, yeah. So with you, it's really hard because you just know there's just this awareness that there's so much you could be doing, and then also, I don't know if you have this as well, it'd be interesting to hear, but I feel when I switch between client work and working on my business rather than in my business, I sometimes in my head almost classify that as free or playtime when actually I am working.
Yes,
Uh,
totally.
but it's not client work, so it's kind of different. And so sometimes when people ask me like how many hours do I work a week, I'm really unsure because I can probably tell you relatively well how many hours are billable. Well, I can tell you that for sure, how many hours are billable for sure. And then I can roughly tell you how many actual client hours I've worked, which is different because admin and stuff. But then there's this whole other world of like working on my business, and that can just go it just can go deep into the night sometimes, and sometimes that's incredible and fun. And then I have the flexibility to take other days off spontaneously if I need to, which is amazing. But it's hard to know. Like, do you know how many hours you work?
Uh, I last week I had 3 or 4 days in a row where I worked 12-hour days.
Oh, wow.
And I had this moment of being like, what am I doing? And a lot of that was, was billable like client hours,
Mm-hmm.
billable hours, doing that. But then also all the other things just required to move things along. And
Uh-huh.
I love playing in my business. I love working on the business. I spent like 4 hours yesterday setting up a YouTube channel for reasons that are not entirely clear, but it seemed like a great idea at the time. Um, I have this old like 40-minute video of me like rambling about tarot, and I was like, well, that should be on the internet. Um,
Yeah.
right? So I had to have a channel, and it was so fun. I was like, oh, great, I'm getting to know YouTube more because I like
Mm-hmm.
learning those platforms. I like learning new things. So it does feel
Mm-hmm.
like fun, but it's work. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this summer I went for again. I've done it more than once, but I went full time freelance in my business at the end of June.
Mm-hmm.
And the past 2 months, I don't know, hours, hours. I mean, I'm working every day,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes that's fine, and sometimes that's not okay.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, very true. Yeah, I hear you totally. I had one more thought and I forgot it. Damn it. Um, I think it's gone. I'm so sorry. But yeah, those are very long days, and I feel that. Yeah.
I mean, they're not all like that, to be
Hmm.
clear, but it was just this moment. I had a few of those days in a row, and I was like, what am I doing? I was like,
Yeah,
this is not the business I want to be creating.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I
the
think
only
that,
person I can blame is me.
well, oh, my thought is back. Hi, Ray.
Yay!
Yeah, my thought was, I'm gonna move my podcast to be also on YouTube. So I'm gonna, in
Ah,
iMovie, add a still image to the audio file, and I'm gonna upload that to YouTube because I think a lot of people will be excited about that. Not
totally.
necessarily. I think they might just, obviously, if someone knows this is a podcast, they will use a podcast app to listen. I just think there's a lot of people that search stuff and keywords really work on YouTube on there, and they might come across our work and be really excited and listen to stuff. So yeah, but that's
Yeah, I
also
think
on
that's a
my
great idea.
thanks. It's on my very long list of things I will do on a day where I don't have any client work. Ha ha. Yes. Oh well. There's one more thing I want to ask you about grumpiness. on a scale from 1 to 10, how grumpy are you about the fact that memes get so much more attention on Instagram than our long, thoughtful, emotional, beautiful posts?
I like kind of a 9, I think,
Okay.
because there's only a handful of people who I follow who post anything like that. They tend to be actual like personal friends. I have no interest in having that in my feed, and I don't understand it. and it there are some folks who have very popular businesses based off of meme heavy accounts, and I'm like, not for me. And it does make me kind of grumpy because I have feelings to share. I have so many feelings. On a scale of 1 to 10, how grumpy does it make you?
Yeah, probably like a 9.5. Yeah, yeah, it's really high up there because I think it's not helping anyone, and it's a tricky one because in a way I want to be a bit grumpy about how, what people are paying attention to, because at the end of the day, that is an algorithm. That is not a little person in Instagram that is like, oh, I'm just gonna let memes win. It is because people tend to like them more and reshare them, and then that gets more attention. But yeah, to give you an example, the other day I posted like a really blank white graphic that said, if white women tried as hard to eliminate white supremacy as they try to lose weight, white supremacy would be ended. And I shared that because it really made me stop and think, and I was like, wow, like how much time have I spent in my lifetime on trying to lose weight? And so I reshared that, and it was like, it has 10 times more engagement than some of my other nature-based posts, right? And then some people actually said like, oh, maybe, actually that is a bit, I don't want to go into it all, and it's just an example, but I think it just has a lot more nuance to it for sure. There's so much to why women do this, what is diet culture doing to us, where is our solidarity going, all these things. And so the next post I made is of a plant, and it's really long. It has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it has 7 paragraphs, and I'm expanding on why I shared this and why I think that it was a bit taken out of context, but blah blah blah, all these thoughts, and it literally had 10% of the engagement of the meme. But I really think that like the dialogue was so much more important, like other people got involved and they commented, and then we talked to each other, and then we even made plans to have a podcast episode, and it was really good, like the conversations that we did have were really good, and yet it was not the way to reach a lot of people, and I think that's such a shame, really.
Yeah, I think that, it comes back, I think in some of those ways, to that oversaturation you've been talking about, because the meme gives you a quick laugh or a quick understanding or a quick sound bite. And it's like reading the headlines in the newspaper and not reading the articles. And you can feel like you know what's going on in the world, or that you're in touch to some community with ease, with very little effort. And I'm not going to, I like some memes. Like, don't get me wrong. I think I shared one of my stories the other day about being a very powerful witch who is also crying all the time.
And I reshared that.
And I love Salem the Cat, because Sabrina the Teenage Witch is a great show. But the fact that got a lot more interaction was also, I was like, oh man, we are so trained at this point to take information distilled into pithy sentiments, rather than depth. That's a bigger issue. It's an issue for us as small business owners, but it's a bigger issue because we are losing nuance and conversation around these topics, and instead have sound bites and reactions. It's a very reactionary thing, and that's, I think, is leading to a lot of the challenges that we're having politically, in terms of prioritizing things like the environment. I mean, just a laundry list of things arise from a culture that prioritizes sound bites, and memes are essentially that.
Absolutely, yes. And yet I don't have any answer to how we can make it better, but it feels good to be openly grumpy about it.
Yeah, and as we come to the close of our grumpy episode, I also want to say, like, I'm also really happy and super grateful. I know you are too.
Yeah, I know. I hope people know that. I was kind of like, I want to be honest that during our conversation, I had moments where I was like, should I make my gratitude clearer or should I, talk about that? And I was like, you know what? I think we have agreed this was the grumpy episode, and people do know that's not all of how we feel, and it is really good to sometimes give these things space. But yeah, totally, we also are grateful people and we have a lot of fun sometimes. Yes.
But even that impulse makes me question, like, why do I feel guilty about being unhappy about things? Why do I feel like I can't, like, that if I complain or am grumpy, that then I am ungrateful and not worthy? That's interesting.
So true. Yeah, I think I would like to make grumpy episodes more of a thing. That was really fun. So yeah, should we tell people where they can find us before we go?
Yes, where can they find you? You first.
I got so excited. Oh my God.
The grumpy episode originator themselves. Yarrow, go.
Well, I am on Instagram where I sometimes grump and sometimes share memes. And if you please can pay more attention to my longer posts, that would be great. And they are at Yarrow Magdalena. I have a Pinterest under the same name. My web design and online marketing business is at yarrowdigital.com. And my podcast is called Daydreamer Roles, and the platform where I offer tarot readings and all that kind of stuff is daydreamerroles.com. Yeah. What about you?
I am Sarah M. Chappell, and you can find me just about anywhere, including now on YouTube, apparently, at Sarah M. Chappell. That's my website where I offer intuitive counsel, deep tarot mentorship, and business consulting, and physical products, and maybe some new zines now that I'm feeling inspired to make things with my hands. And on Instagram and Pinterest. And my podcast is called So You Wanna Be a Witch.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Aww. So much love here.
Yeah. I met such cool people on your podcast, like met in air quotes. And also want to say you have a really great freebie on your website. But anyway, I will put all those links in the show notes, and I'm sure you will too, so people don't have to remember that stuff. But yeah, thank you so much. This was really great.
Oh, thank you for the idea. I'm so excited about us collaborating to create content together for free for people. This is beautiful. And thank you, everyone, for going with us on our grumpy ride.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope that you enjoyed the show, and if you did, I would really appreciate a review on iTunes. That's making it a lot easier for other people to find the show, and they might benefit from it too, and it's just beautiful to share these conversations with as many people as possible. If you want to support the show financially, you can also become a Patreon at patreon.com/daydreamerroles, which gets you access to monthly ritual kits as well as courses and regular readings by me. I will link to that in the show notes. Thank you so much.